Hi, Max Vonne here, author of Faer. Today we're going to talk about Writer's Wiki, which is a site I've put together to share educational resources and other important links that you might find handy as a writer. Before we go on, I should mention the URL is writerswiki.com, and you can see that up here in the browser URL window. All right, so let's dig in. What is Writer's Wiki? This is a bunch of resources that I put together here, and I'm just going to go through what they are and just take you on a brief tour, and that'll bring you up to speed real quick. So the first link that you see here is channels. The first link is Brandon Sanderson, and as you can see over here, I give a brief description of who that person is. Professor of fantasy writing at BYU and successful fantasy author. If you don't know Brandon Sanderson, he's the author of Mistborn and the Stormlight series, Stormlight Archives, I believe is what it's called. And he's just a wonderful teacher, and his lectures are available online and they're free. So this has just been a huge home run for anybody that wants to learn writing, myself included. And so if I click on that link, it'll give me a list of all the Brandon Sanderson videos that I've personally curated, which means I've watched every single one of these videos, and I thought it was worthwhile to add to the wiki. So like, for example, if you wanted to just, let's say you wanted to get Brandon Sanderson's ideas about plot, you can go into the search bar here, type in plot, and it's going to reduce the list down to just those videos that are on plot. And then if you click on one of the links, it's going to open a new tab, and boom, we're right into a commercial, unfortunately. But this will take you, once you clear out the commercial, it'll take you into this Brandon Sanderson link and the lecture. And these are just, I can't recommend this high enough. I mean, one of the great things about writerswiki.com is, I'm going out there and I'm searching some of the best resources, and I'm telling you, Brandon Sanderson is just a wonderful teacher, great to watch. There's so many topics here that are worth pursuing. I just can't recommend it high enough. So I'm going to step back and look at some other people on the list. Okay, obviously here's my videos, and I'm just getting started with this, and you'll see these increase over time. I'm going to do a little different than Sanderson. I'm going to give you small digestible bits and let Brandon kind of give you those big expansive lectures, which I think are super helpful. Another video blogger on this list is Murphy Napier, and she is a very well-known booktube author and blogger, and she has great topics. So like, she'll have a video about what people want to see in villains. She has such a large following that readers write in and tell her what they're looking for, and she kind of aggregates some of that up. So this is a really great insight into some things you might want to consider when you're writing your book. And so I just thought this is a great channel, and I'll be looking to add more content for her. Another one is Ellen Brock, and I don't have too many from Ellen, but she's a freelance editor, and I find her videos are very succinct and to the point and worth a listen. Okay, so let's move on. Let's take a look at articles. Over here in the left navigation, you do have to click twice. It's maybe a flaw in my design, but just how the navigation works. And here you can see a list of articles, and all of these articles have been either read by myself or Bethany Tucker, who is the other contributing editor to Writer's Wiki. I really appreciate her help, and she brings a lot of great resources to this, so you're going to want to check that out. If you just want to look at Bethany's contributions, you can type in her name into the search bar. Oh, you got to spell it right. And you'll just get her submissions to the wiki, and you can kind of check those out. I'm gonna take a look at one of mine just because I'm a little bit more familiar with what I've put in here to talk about. So oh, here's one right at the top. 400 plus words to describe hair. So I'm just going to click on that, and this is contributed by Kathy Steinman, who's written some books, The Writer's Lexicon, which I actually own and I think is a good book. But let's say you want to just, I don't know, I'm stuck and I need some ideas for how to describe hair. Here you go, it's a big long list. So this is the kind of stuff that you can find in Writer's Wiki and the types of tools that writers use. And we just got some articles all over the place. If you just want like articles on marketing, for example, you could start to type that in the search box over here, and then you're going to get a list of just marketing articles. And here's one: what influences book purchasing decisions? And Bethany submitted that one, but author familiarity turns out to be a big one. So you're going to want to learn this stuff, and it's just great. It's all free. You don't have to do anything to have access to this. You can see here I'm not even logged in. Actually, you can't see it. Let me see if I can push it over a little bit. Yeah, so I'm not logged in. You don't need to join Writers Wiki. I don't really have a way to do that for you at this point. I'm not looking for users, just visitors. Take advantage of it. One of the ways this came about is Bethany and I were sharing links, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we had one central location where we could store all the links, and that way I wouldn't lose it. I have to go, what was that article she gave me, and what was it related to? Was it marketing, or was it technique? So I kind of dreamed up this website and banged it out in a couple of weeks, and I think it's pretty cool. I use it quite a bit, and I like to archive things here. If I want to tie back to a description for hair and I can't think of something, I'll take a look at that list. Why not? It works out really, really well. Okay, so the next link here is blogs. This is meant as, following blogs that are a platform, like David Galgan. Here's one that Bethany Tucker put in, and Critique Match is one that I added, and that's a really, critiquematch.com is a very important site to me, and I'll be talking about that in a separate video. Okay, moving on, I'm going to look at the books link here, and one thing I love is reading books on technique. Made a mistake there. I got to type it in as writing technique, and then you can see here in the category list, you're only going to get books on writing technique. So I've read the ones that I've contributed. I've read them all. I think I've read all the ones that Bethany's recommended too. We just got one page here, so it's not that deep, but these are great books. I can't recommend them high enough. They're inexpensive. You learn so much. I mean, some of the highlights here for me were Deep Point of View by Marcy Kennedy, just a fantastic book. Her other book on description, again, just wonderful. People ask me about writer's block, and I always say, writer's block, I go straight to a book on technique. It always inspires me. And I break the block because I think of different ways to approach writing. These are just great books. Superstructure, James Scott Bell. This other one, Writing Your Novel from the Middle, really just had one idea in it, but it was a worthwhile idea about, dreaming up the turning point in the novel for the character and starting from there and working your way backwards to get to the front and, forward to get to the finale. But I thought that was an interesting concept, and it influenced the way I think about stories. I'd say I'd follow any one of these things to the letter, but they've all had a huge influence. Another big one would be Fantasy Fiction Formula by Deborah Chester. Again, I don't really follow her exactly, but she sure got me thinking about a lot of things that are worthwhile, and it's just a great read. So links to all those books here. You do have to buy them on Amazon. They're usually pretty cheap, around $10 or so. Kindle versions, paperback, it's all there for you. And I highly recommend this to anyone who wants to continue their education in writing. Okay, so next we have groups, and I haven't done too much with this. I've just listed the Faer Slack group. Not really too many people on it at this point. I was just starting on that journey, but if you want to communicate to me through Slack, you can join the Slack group, and just clicking this link will take you to that. In fact, I'll open that in a new tab here, and you can see what that is. So obviously, if you're part of Slack, you can just join, or you may have to create a Slack account to take advantage of that. Moving on to podcasts, this was Bethany's idea to really kind of include this. I think it's a great idea. You can listen to these in the background. I used to have favorite albums when I was a kid. Now I have favorite podcasts and videos. Mostly I listen to Brandon Sanderson lectures in the background when I'm doing busy work and things like that. But you can see there's a bunch of topics here. The Six Figure Author podcast, listen to that. It's pretty good. Again, this is all curated content so that one of us has listened to it and thought it was worthy of your time. So check that out if you can. Services, sometimes you need a particular service, and this page is for listing those links. One that I highly recommend, because I'm doing really well with it, is Anna Cruz Cover Art. I mean, she just did a phenomenal job on the Faer covers. You can kind of see a couple of them behind my head as as I'm speaking here. I blew them up into big poster size. But if you check out the Faer series on Amazon, book one free, by the way, you can see her art. Her work is just phenomenal. So this is a link right into her stuff. So there's things about marketing, self-publishing, different types of resources that you might need. Teespring, for example, is one I use to create the Faer merch, and as such as it is. I mean, right now it's t-shirts and hoodies, and I'll be expanding that later on as market demand gets there, and I can come up with more creative artwork for it. But this is a good resource, and I was hands-on using that site, so I know it works pretty good. I ordered a couple of the shirts, and my kids love them. So, let's try to see what else is on this list. Critique Match, again, that's a service where you can get beta readers and critiquers to look at your work, and it's free. And I highly, highly recommend that. It's probably one of the strongest resources on the wiki. I've used it quite a bit. It's how I met Bethany. We were a couple of early adopters, and it's just a fantastic platform. So you're going to want to check that out when you get a chance. Sites is similar to services, except that maybe it's a list. Facial expressions list. This could go under blog, or it just depends. It's a kind of a close call to list it as a separate site, but I thought it was kind of cool, and just if you ever get stuck with how you want to describe a facial expression, this is just a resource you can refer to. It's not authoritative. It's just meant to maybe stir the imagination a little bit, and I like the fact that it's got a picture. So maybe that picture inspires you. Hey, what's the person in there scratching their head and looking to the side? And that denotes confusion. So, I don't know if you would use that exactly, but you get the idea. It's just meant for inspiration purposes. Socials talks about social networks, and I listed the Max Vonne Facebook fan page because I thought that would be kind of fun to do. Kboard's Writers Cafe. This is really what it's more or less meant for. Social areas for writers to get together. And then videos. What's different about this videos link than the channels is this I will put in anything. So if, for example, there's a video on how to upload a book to the iTunes store, which turns out is not the most intuitive thing in the world to do. But here's a video about that. You got to be careful when you're watching these videos, as I found. Some of them are a little out of date, but it gives you some hints, and you can probably figure it out. So like, for example, let's see if there's a marketing video in here. Like George R.R. Martin, I haven't really created a channel for him, but he does have a video where he talks about his career overview, and I thought that'd be real interesting for a writer to watch, just to kind of get an understanding of how that works, and he certainly put his time in. Learning Facebook ads for authors, that's a good one. If you do self-publish, and you want to get your advertising going, you need to learn this stuff. So as I kind of take that journey myself, I'm going to be sharing this stuff, and I'll be doing videos and reporting about how those experiences have turned out. I'm just getting started, so not much to report yet, but doing well on Amazon. Kind of excited about that. I'll be talking about that in a separate video. There's a couple other links. Our story, talks about me. If you do want to learn more about Bethany, you can click on her link, and there's a profile there for her, as well as some links, and that links to her blog. That's pretty much it for Writers Wiki. I'm going to be adding a lot of content to this. I'm going to be very active on the channels. Anything new from Brandon Sanderson is probably going up. I'm going to be adding to my channel, and certainly these four that I have listed, and hopefully more than that. Any technique books that I pick up, I'll be adding. I try to stay current on that stuff. I try to stay active. I'm hungry for technique books. I never can get enough. It's part of the four legs of being a writer is continuing education. I think that's huge. So, I'm very active in that space, and hopefully I'll be adding more books soon. And, I think we're going to wrap it up there. I hope you like this tour of Writers Wiki. I hope you get a lot of use out of this site. It's curated content. I wouldn't put it up there if I didn't go through it and think it was worth your while and helpful towards your career. And that's pretty much it. If you like it, hit the like button below and subscribe, and hope to see you in the next video.